Hello and welcome to the Celtic Way morning briefing live. I'm Tony Haggerty and I'm joined for the first time on the video by Sean Martin. Delighted to say that. How you doing, Sean? You all right?
Not bad, Tony. Yourself?
I'm okay. Plenty to discuss, so we'll just get straight into it. Myself and Alison McConnell did the live briefing last night right after the game. Sean, I just wanted to get your take on, first and foremost, how you thought Celtic played.
I mean, you and Alison did a good job tearing into it last night right after the game. But I mean, from my own perspective, I thought only a few players could conceivably have got pass marks. And to be honest, I'm even using that term loosely because it wasn't a good display by any means. I mean, most of us probably went into the game worrying ourselves sick about the defence. But for the most part, I know we conceded twice, but for the most part, it was probably a lack of attacking edge that was a problem, it seemed to me. I mean, fair play to him. First of all, Anthony Ralston, unbelievably. He looked confident on the ball. His defensive work was kind of largely effective. So, genuinely fair play to him for that display. Thought Stephen Welsh was okay. Got caught a couple of times. Same with Dane Murray. Scott Bain made a decent save. I still thought he looked nervy a lot of the time. Beyond that, I thought, disagreeing with your player ratings, I thought Ryan Christie actually was all right. I thought he'd at least had a bit of urgency about his play, put in a couple of good passes, generally done, like he's off the ball work well enough. McGregor took his goal.
A few people said that to me, Sean, about Ryan Christie, but hey, I
don't know about you, but besides those, I can't really think of anybody that deserved even the kind of cursory pass marks. To you?
I didn't want to be particularly negative. I agree with yourself. I thought Anthony Ralston, who's been a bit of a whipping boy, was possibly the star man alongside. I thought Welsh and Murray did okay. It was in middle to front that let us down, I thought. I mean, McGregor scored a brilliant goal, but Sorrow and Turnbull were peripheral figures, you know. Christie, I thought, was just okay, but some people say that they thought he was the best midfielder. Again, just down to what you're saying. And Franchetti, just, I don't know, his head's out the door, isn't it? Or it certainly looks to be.
So, I mean, you mentioned the midfielders there. I don't know what you thought, but I thought Ismaila Sorrow, sometimes he looks really, really good. Other times, like last night, I thought his first touch in particular when he's receiving the ball is going to cause all sorts of havoc this season, I think, if it doesn't improve, because
he's looking touches a tackle.
Exactly, aye. I mean, apart from those, James Forrest obviously should have scored that chance probably, but he still looks a wee bit off the pace to me, and it was his first touch, to be honest. Really, so it's hard to be too critical. It's a fact for me that he was pretty much missing after that, rather than missing the chance itself. I think it's more of a concern.
I agree with you completely on Sorrow. I just think there's a jagged edge to his game that he needs to curb as well. He can't win every ball. He thinks he can. And then in doing so, commits foul after foul and then ends up getting booked through the totting up procedure. But there'll be a time when referees won't be so lenient and he'll walk due to just rashness. And as you say as well, his control of the football last night wasn't the best. You know, his first touch and just in general his play. But I don't think he was alone in having a bad day at the office. Now we're going to address something again. The goalkeeping situation, there are rumours that Joe Hart could be coming in. But last night, frailties again exposed, Sean, in the goalkeeping area. And if the manager certainly knows now, he needs a goalkeeper.
I think so. I mean, I said the other day, I said to Andy on the briefing that I thought Ange would stick with Barkas, and that we'd have to hope that the new defenders plus Julien coming back in when they gel would kind of limit how much he's exposed. But obviously now the talk is that Joe Hart might be coming in. I mean, first of all, Bain, I didn't think he was terrible last night. He made certainly one decent save. I thought the other one he kind of made himself big, which is just he should be doing. He looked nervy, especially with that cross, which was it seemed really simple. He made it very, very difficult. Is he better than Barkas? Probably, but I still don't think Bain is Celtic starting quality. So, on the basis that we're talking about Joe Hart, I must admit, I don't know what your first impression when you heard that was, but I thought, he's barely been playing the past few years, but like when I actually looked at it a wee bit, like he had a full season in Italy with Torino, and then he had 2 seasons where he played the equivalent of like half a season's worth of games in the Premier League for West Ham and Burnley. So after that, there's been 2 seasons where he's not really featured, but he still reached double figures last year. And I don't actually think it's as big a concern as I thought it was when his name first came up, because you remember Fraser Forster, I think he played once in about a year and a half before he came back to us on loan, and he was good, obviously. So I don't necessarily think there's as much of a concern there as I thought there was when the name first came up. I don't know what you think.
I think there's a desperation for Celtic to get somebody in between the sticks, and Joe Hart might appear to be a kind of yesterday's man for a lot of the Celtic supporters. But what he will do is he'll improve the quality that stands in between the sticks if Celtic want to sign him. And I think if you're a goalkeeper worth your salt, you're walking into that team and you're claiming that number 1 jersey, because the other 2 have just failed to convince at various stages, despite being given numerous chances to grab the jersey. So if I'm Joe Hart, I'm thinking, yep, I'll come, but I want to be the number 1. And if he gets a guarantee that he'll be the number 1, I think he can. He's a former England international goalkeeper, and again, as you say, he's been much maligned, but I look at Fraser Forster as well, and Fraser Forster's arguably the best Celtic goalkeeper in the past 20 years. So working on that premise, I think Joe Hart can certainly come in and claim the jersey and the glove straight away if he chooses to sign for the club. And I think it will be a quality step up from the two incumbents, because I just feel they failed to inspire confidence.
I think that's pretty spot on. I mean, that's, as I said the other day, I felt sorry for Barkas in the sense that his defenders were chopping and changing and weren't playing well last year either. But I mean, there's only so many excuses that you can make for the performances and the kind of basic errors that he's making. If Hart was to come in, get him confident, get him playing, I think he could be a good keeper for Celtic. Depends on the deal, I suppose, the wages, other things like that, how much we'd be paying him. But I mean, it's certainly something to think about. What I would say is there's been a lot made of Ange wanting the keeper to be able to play with the ball at his feet, and I seem to remember that was the kind of main problem that Pep Guardiola had with Hart when he took over at Man City. He wasn't quite good enough with the ball at his feet, but then I suppose the standard of being good with the ball at your feet that Guardiola is looking for might be slightly higher. So that maybe still something to think about, though.
I'm of the opinion you keep the ball out the net first
and foremost.
You work on your sweeper keeper finesse at a later date.
I totally agree with you. But I mean, just in terms of if that's what he's wanting his keepers to be able to do, would he really want him in that sense? But no, I agree with you. And again, to go back to what I said to Andy the other day on, I think, Tuesday's briefing, that yes, he might be, Barkas and Bain actually might be not bad with the ball at their feet, but fundamentally you need to be able to be relied upon to keep it out when called upon rather than just passing it out. So
yeah, of course, do the basics first and we'll work on the rest can follow. Again, another one that divides the Celtic support right now is French Eddie, Sean. We touched upon him briefly there, saying his head's maybe out the door, but he just looks like a player who seems to be going through the motions at this minute. I don't know your thoughts, but last night he allowed himself to be bossed by Eric Sviatchenko, who was cast aside by Celtic because they didn't deem him worthy enough of cutting it at the club. And the French area of old would have given him a torrid time, I would have thought, but it's not there at the moment with French Eddie, is it?
No, I think if that is to be his last game, then he's ended his Celtic career with a bit of a whimper. But again, the time is right for him to leave when the price is right for us, really. I think that's always been the case since we signed him. He didn't have a good game again. And if it is Brighton or whoever, if Brighton want to pay as much as has been reported, then that seems a good deal to me for a guy with not that long left on his deal here. Especially with the kind of if he's going to put in the kind of performances that he has last night. What I would ask you though is, after he's gone, does Ayeti get his chance at a run of games? Would you reckon Furuhashi maybe start, or Griffiths if he's fit? Or
that's the big dilemma, isn't it, facing Ange Postecoglou moving forward? And if the price is right and the figures are being quoted, then there's still enough left over to bring in a quality replacement, isn't there? Or you would think so. So they have to go and get one, and they have to go and get one too sweet, and a name that keeps coming up, so the likes of Kevin Nisbet from Hibs, somebody like that, maybe shop locally, as they say, in terms of getting somebody in the door. But Andrew said that he wants the right players in, and he's not just going to pick players for the sake of it. Where do you stand on that, Sean? The kind of Kevin Nisbet scenario, if Edward goes bringing in somebody like him, or are you willing to wait, trust Angie's judgment on bringing in somebody else?
I think it depends. The player profile for Nisbet, I like him. I mean, he's obviously a very good finisher. I can't say I've seen enough of him in depth to know if he's going to fit what Ange wants in his central striker. So that would be the big question, I think. And Ange should be able to answer that pretty sharpish to the board. I don't think he's going to beat about the bush if he doesn't want him. So I think that's going to be a bridge we'll cross when we come to it. But he is a really good player, Nisbet, and he certainly scores in Scotland. The last time, all right, the last few years, maybe people would say, has it actually paid off? But the last time we bought a striker from Hibs and shopped locally, it worked out well for a good few years there. So I've no problem with shopping locally in that sense.
You're talking about Griffiths, of course. Now, where do you stand on that? Do you think he should come in and play any significant part? Because I know he's now what you would term a divisive character, and the Celtic supporters are erring towards shipping him out the door as well. What's your thoughts? Do you think he has
just taking a drink of water to compose myself? Well, with the West Ham game there was cheers as well as jeers. You're right to say that it is a polarising topic. My own personal view is he is a good player. Even last season, when all the various problems, when he did get a wee run of games, he seemed quite good again. But that's not really the point. I think you'd probably agree with it in terms of the fans. That's not really the point. And I see a lot of people saying, like commentating on it, saying, like, "Oh, if he gets a chance and starts banging them in again, nobody's going to be booing then." But to be honest, I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I think you say that yourself, Tony. It seems to have become more of a moral question than how many he can score.
Yeah,
I think the fact that he was off the pace and that people thought he maybe shouldn't have gotten that new deal in the first place. That's the type of thing I think you can score enough goals to change people's perception about. But it pains to stress. I know that with the other thing, there's been no criminality. But as you said in your article, Tony, it seems to have become more of a moral question for a lot of fans. And that, in my mind, it is just not something that's just going to go away with a good run of form. And it could end up a major distraction. And I think that's something that Ange is going to need to ponder at some stage.
But if Eddie leaves this week, then that does only leave Haggerty and Griff. So he's got a major decision to make there, isn't it?
He's going to need to come in.
Yeah, correct. Going to have to move quickly and bring somebody. That's the point. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now they head to Tynecastle on Saturday to kick off the season. Sean, baptism of fire. Obviously lost in the Champions League, a huge disappointment, and all sorts of reasonings behind that. What happens now for Celtic? Do you think can they get off to a flyer? Do you see enough there to suggest that they can go to Tynecastle and win, or will they struggle?
Well, we're be Celtic if we didn't have some sort of doubt about struggling. But even if Celtic were playing well and fully stocked with signings, going to Tynecastle would still be a difficult start to the season. I'm sure you'd agree. That said, I don't think you want to overreact too much, if possible, to Wednesday's display in isolation. There's still positives across the pre-season games, and it's obviously on Ange to pick the players up for Saturday now. A lot of fans, to be honest, I think a lot of fans, rightly or wrongly, start judging him from Saturday as it's the league starting. Whether that's fair or not, I don't know what you think, because it's going to be the same kind of problems as he's faced in the qualifiers. But I do think the league's a different kettle of fish in a way. And he does need to get off to a good start, but obviously key to that is not overreacting if he doesn't. But
I think the majority of Celtic fans exempted him from the European results and what happened in Europe because he hasn't been backed in time to bring in players. I've said constantly all along that in a month, 2 months, 3 months time, Celtic will be better, they'll be improved. You know, for a start, you've got Starfelt coming in, you've got Furuhashi coming in, you've got Julian coming back. Those three alone will improve the team, and there'll be more players to follow. But it was just the here and now. I mean, Ange came in June the 10th. It wasn't a long time to get yourself geared up and ready for the Champions League qualifiers. But Celtic done next to nothing. They had one new player in their squad, Leila Bada, you know, from the squad that negotiated the Champions League qualifiers last year, more or less. You know, and I think that's what annoyed the Celtic supporters, because they again, and I keep saying it, played Russian roulette with the Champions League and refused to back the manager where he needed it most. And now what happens next? I mean, most people, I think you're right, Sean, I think most people will start to judge what happens now because they want to see Celtic mount a serious title challenge.
I think what you said, I mean, we've all pretty much been saying that. I mean, I called it Groundhog Day the other day, which is maybe too on the nose, but it does feel like that. I think it all just kind of feeds into what we've been saying about managers not being properly backed quickly and efficiently enough when the qualifiers roll around. And but I mean, in terms of just Saturday, I still think yes, we can win. In general, though, the type of football he wants to play with that intensity, especially, the squad really needs to be fuller as well. It's not just the starting 11, which is very much still a work in progress, but so's the squad really, and that's poor. That's worrying. I think everybody's calling it a rebuild. Everybody knows it's a rebuild, but it feels like Ange's the only one with a hard hat on. So, like, there's only so much you can really blame him for, even if we get beat on Saturday, which I don't think that's something to really think about. I think Tynecastle or not, Hearts are one of the opponents that it seems to me we go through periods where they're really difficult games. We might edge it by one goal, but then we turn up and we wall up 3 or 4 sometimes. So it's a hard place to go regardless, whether you've strengthened or whether it's like we are now.
I mean, it is a hard place to go at the best of times with a full squad and a healthy squad, but I mean, you cannot get away from the fact, Sean, that this Celtic squad is threadbare. It's lacking any depth, and there is a major rebuild need. I said the other day that Celtic needed possibly 7 players: a goalkeeper, a right back, a centre back, another midfield enforcer, in my opinion, and 1/2 strikers. That's 6 players. You know, that's just off the top of my head. You could argue they need a left back too, so that's 7. I mean, I don't imagine they'll bring all of those players in, but they need to bring the majority there, maybe 4 or 5. You know, priorities.
I agree. I mean, there's as I said right there, like, the starting 11 is the main concern, but to me, and that is exactly what you touched on there, the squad isn't full enough either for the kind of football and the kind of season ahead that we're going to have. It just comes back to that again, that it's not been quick enough, it's not been efficient enough to get him the tools that he needs. You said tooled up last night. That's exactly the phrase. They don't tool up their managers. Yeah,
and you know, also as well, he has to get some kind of result at Tynecastle, or the worm will turn in terms of the fans. I know he's got the backing of the fans right now, but that will turn a wee bit if they go to Tynecastle and don't get a result. And because, you know, I think 4 of the first 5 games are Aberdeen, Hibs, Rangers and Hearts. Is that right?
I agree with you. I said the other day as well that context is everything for me. Like, we got beat last night. In context, it was a poor performance though. So if we win at Tynecastle with a poor display, nobody's going to be complaining. Yeah. If we lose, but there's a really positive display, then there's at least positives to take out from it. Even though, as you say, for some fans, the judging will start, and it will start on a negative.
Well, Judgment Day's arrived. I think Saturday most Celtic supporters will judge Ange moving forward from now. The Celtic team will change rapidly as the weeks and months progress. But they're going to try and get off to a flyer domestically. We'll watch and wait with bated breath and see what happens, Sean.
Indeed.
Strap yourself in. It's going to be a roller coaster of a season. Thanks very much. This has been the Celtic Way Morning Briefing Live. I've been Tony Haggerty. That's been Sean Martin. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Tony.